Hello, Margaret Willingham here with I, the Beholder Quilt Design. In our trace-based snip and stitch process, sometimes when we're cutting away that top fabric, there is a risk of cutting that background fabric, particularly in a design like this, where you have small, fine details. And I find whenever that's going to happen, that's the kind of pattern that I'm going to cut that background fabric by mistake. So many years ago, when I first started the business, one of the very early blogs I wrote was called "Oops, I Snipped My Background Fabric." And I started developing ways that you could repair that background fabric so that you didn't have to throw the whole piece away. So by now, after doing the business for 10 years, I have developed several ways of repairing. So that blog, for those of you who are readers, I have the blog, the original one, Oops, I Snipped My Background Fabric, but I thought I'd do a little video tutorial on how I did that repair. And the very first way that I came up with, and it actually was on this very same pattern Victorian urn, because that's when I did my very first boo-boo, it's essentially making a patch. And I have a boo-boo right here, and sometimes the boo-boos are so small I have to put a little pin in them so I can find them. But over time they will fray once the piece is done. So I have a pin in it so I can find it. Now, often you don't have any background fabric left, but on the back side of your piece, you have all this fabric, and you can often take a little piece up in the corner, which is exactly what I'm going to do. So I'm going to flip my view around so that you can see what I'm going to do here. So I'm going to take a little patch of fusible. I have a little piece of fusible here, and I'm going to lay it on to that corner of my background fabric, because that's where I made my snip, and I'm going to iron it on. And I've already measured so that I know my fusible piece is the same size. I'm going to cut it out. I'm going to cut it to the parameters of my little piece of fusible. Now I'm using soft fuse so that once it's adhered on and my piece is all done and glued, or excuse me, and quilted, it's going to be so soft once it's washed and quilted in place, you won't even be able to tell there's any fusible in there. So it will not be a hard little spot in there. So now let me find where my pin is with my boo-boo. Here it is. Okay. So there's my boo-boo. And I'm going to take my pin out so I don't glue that in. I'm going to peel my paper off of my fusible. And I'm going to position, and I've already stitched the outline. I'm going to position my little patch on the wrong side of my background fabric, and I'm just going to iron it in place. Now I got my repair in before there was any fraying in my patch, in my little snip. So when I flip over to the front, there's my little repair. It's all done. So now there's going to be no fraying that's going on. And I suppose there's a little shadowing from the polka dots, but there are so many random polka dots and everything that's going on in the fabric, I don't think anything's going to stand out. So that is a way to do a repair and a patch. So if you've snipped your background by mistake, please don't panic. This is a way to repair your piece and keep on stitching, and happy quilting with it. Stay tuned for another way to repair using bone ash on another piece that I did. And then we're going to have a third way of doing a repair coming up. Thanks very much.